We're going to start with polygons. We're going to start looking if they're similar. Now, for similar, we have pictures. We have, in this case, on polygons, on figures. Similar means they have the same shape, so they look the same, exactly the same thing. It's just that the size might be different. I know back in the days we talk about congruency. In congruency, we use a symbol that looked like this. The weekly thing meant they look the same, and the equal sign meant they're the same size. That was for congruency. Now for similarity, we're just going to use this shape, this symbol, which means they look the same. Like once again, in similarity, the shape is the same, but the size might be different. In order for figures to keep the same shape, they must have the same angles. So there's going to be two criteria we're going to meet. One of them, angles. So we're going to check the angles. And the second criteria, we're going to check sides. Okay. So once again, for the figures to be the same shape, they must have the same angles. Looking at question number 1, the two figures have the same angle. So that's okay. Now, for them to be similar, the sides must be proportional. Okay, what I mean with proportional, let's take a look. Question number 1, the big figure, the numbers that I see are 24 and 54. Then they repeat. I'm looking at the numbers that do not repeat. So 24 and 54. I'm going to make fractions. And those numbers are going to be on the top of my fraction. Okay, so if there were more numbers that did not repeat, I will put those numbers as well. All right, looking at the second figure, I noticed 24 is the small number. So 24 goes with 20 and 54 goes with 40. Notice that small number went with the small number and the big number went with the big number. There's two ways how we can check if these two are proportional. One way is simplify your fractions. If they're proportional, both fractions will simplify to the same thing. So looking at 24 over 20, let me divide each by 4. So let me divide 24 and 20. Let me divide each by 4. So that simplifies to 6 over 5. Now 54 and 40, let's divide by 2. That gives me 27 over 20. I cannot simplify anymore. I notice that my fractions do not equal. That means my sides are not proportional. Remember I said in order for a shape to be similar, the angles must be the same and the sides must be proportional. Because the sides are not proportional, I'm going to say not similar. If it met both criteria, the angles are the same, the sides are proportional, it has to meet both criteria in order for me to say they are similar. All right, let's take a look at number 2. Let me start with the sides. Let's see. 5 and 7. Those are the numbers that do not repeat on the small figure. Then 5 goes with 30 and 7 goes with 42. Let me simplify each fraction. 5 over 30, that simplifies to 1 over 6. 7 over 42, that simplifies to 1 over 6. All right, so far the sides are proportional. Now, let me check the angles. On the small figure, I know in a parallelogram, two angles that are next to each other should add up to 180. So I see the bottom corner is 60. So I'm going to say this other corner should be 120. Because once again, two angles that are next to each other should add up to 180. Now let me compare this angle with this angle. Like, oh, the angles are not the same. Therefore, not similar again. Remember, it has to meet both criteria. The angles must be equal and the sides must be proportional. Now, when we're checking for sides being proportional, if simplifying a fraction is not your thing, If you struggle with simplifying fraction, another way you can check if these two are proportional, just cross multiply. So from the beginning, looking at question number 1, from the beginning, you could have just multiplied 24 times 40 and 54 times 20. If those two are proportional, the multiplications, like 24 times 40, will be the same thing as 20 times 54. Because these are not proportional, the multiplications are not equal to each other. Same thing on question number 2. Cross multiplied 5 times 42 and then 7 times 30. Now in this case, they do equal the same thing. I get 210 on both. That means the sides are proportional. So once again, you cross multiplied. If the multiplications equal the same thing, the sides are proportional. If the multiplication, they don't equal the same thing, they're not proportional. So once again, for proportional, for the sides, you can do two cases. Either simplify the fraction or cross multiply. All right, let's take a look at these other two examples. Now it says the polygons in each pair are similar. Okay, so we are told they are similar. That means the angles are equal and the sides are proportional. Find the missing side length. All right, so I see there's a question mark, and I know I replace question marks with X. So let me call this X. And from the figure that has X, I'm going to use two numbers. I only need two. I could have more than two given to me, but I only need two. I'm going to use 18 and X. So let me make two fractions. Those two are going to be on the top of my fractions. It doesn't matter which one you write first. The X first or the 18 first. It doesn't matter. Okay. Now, I noticed that 18 goes with 12. On the other picture, 18 goes with 12. And X goes with 8. I'm not going to use all the numbers sometimes. So there's some numbers that I'm not going to use. I just need two numbers from each figure. I may be given more. Okay, so because they are similar, I know I can simplify the fractions that equal the same thing, and I can also cross multiply. So as a matter of fact, let me simplify first. I can cross multiply whenever I want. Because we multiply diagonal, that's the only way we cannot simplify. But we can simplify any other way. What I mean with any other way, I can simplify top and bottom, the same fraction, 18 over 12. Let me simplify that. Let me divide each by 6. That gives me 3 over 2. I can cross multiply now, but I can also simplify side to side. So the two numbers at the bottom, 2 and 8, let me divide each by 2, so it gives me 1 and 4. Like I say, when you multiply, because we multiplied diagonal, because we're going to cross multiply, that's the only way we cannot simplify. But we can simplify any other way. All right, so when I go here, 1 times x is x. 4 times 3 is equal to 12. You can cross multiply whenever you want. You don't have to simplify all the way. Right? I simplify all the way here and then I cross multiply, but you don't have to. You can cross multiply whenever you want. Let's take a look at question number 4. That question mark is x. Right? I'm going to replace it with an x. From this figure, I'm going to use two numbers. I'm going to use x, and then I'm going to use 9. I'm not going to use 15. I'm only going to use those two. And let me write a fraction, x and 9. So I'm going to write my fractions. Those two go on the top. All right, so I notice x goes with 32 and 9 goes with 12. Like I said, simplify as much as you want and cross multiply whenever you want. I'm going to simplify 9 over 12. Let me divide each by 3. So that gives me 3 over 4. All right, I'm not going to simplify all the way. I'm just going to cross multiply. 4 times x is 4x. 3 times 32 is 96. Let me divide by 4 to get the x by itself. 96 divided by 4 gives me 24. So x equals 24. I could have simplified even more. Before I cross multiplied, I could have simplified my numbers at the bottom, 4 and 32. I could have simplified, but remember I said you can cross multiply whenever you want. You can simplify as much as you want. All right, let's take a look at these last two figures. We're going to be solving for x. So I see where the notation here, the polygons in each pair are similar. So because they are similar, I know sides are proportional. So from the figure where x is, I'm going to choose those two values, 3x plus 4 and 15. Once again, I'm going to make two fractions and those go on top. I notice that 3x plus 4 goes with the 48 and the 15 goes with the 18. Okay, I'm going to simplify now. Let me simplify as much as I can, or not as much as I can, but let me just simplify a little. 18 and 48. Let me divide each of those by 6. 48 divided by 6 is 8, and 18 divided by 6 is 3. Okay. I could probably simplify more. I could simplify the fraction, the 15 over 3, but I'm just going to cross multiply already. Remember I said you can simplify as much as you want, but you can cross multiply whenever you want. So let's take a look. When I cross multiply this way, because there's a plus sign in one of them, right? 3x plus 4. The number that is by itself, in this case the 3, make sure you multiply to both. So 3 times 3x and 3 times 4. So 3 times 3x gives me 9x plus 12. Once again, because there was a plus or a minus sign, the number that was by itself, I multiply it to both terms. So 9x plus 12 equals, now here, 15 times 8. 15 times 8 is 120. All right, let me solve for x. It's just plain algebra. Let me subtract 12. So 9x equals 108. Let me divide by 9. X is equal to 12. Good. Let's take a look at this last example. I'm going to choose two sides from where my x is. I'm going to make two fractions. Those go on the top. So I notice the 5 goes with the 20. And the 2x minus 20 goes with the 16. I'm going to simplify the 5 over 20. Let me call that 1 over 4. Simplify. You can simplify as much as you want. I notice I can simplify at the bottom, the 4 and the 16, but I'm just going to cross multiply. Let me cross multiply this way. Because there's a plus or a minus, in my case, the 4 multiplied to both. So 4 times 2x and 4 times 20 equals 16 times 1. The rest is just algebra. The minus 80, let me move it over as a plus 80. So I get that 8x equals 96. Let me divide by 8. X is equal to 12. So that's your homework for today.